I don't know. After hearing him calm and talking about the tether story, it's probable.
Go down to the county attorney's office. I think you'll find a lot of humans down there.
All right.
No disrespect.
Stop driving.
I'm flirting with the judge in front of my dad.
Probation. What's going on? This is Colin. How's everyone doing? Happy Thursday. Got a few things to say before I play the video. First and foremost, I gave you guys a really half-assed thank you last night. I had a lot going on in my personal life, and it bled into my thank you. So I'm going to be putting together a separate video and make it as thoughtful as I can to say thank you for everyone that donated. I do really appreciate it. And I do have a lot going on separate than just my financial issues. And you guys did not deserve the half-assed thank you I gave you guys last night. So I apologize for that. So look for that video. I'm going to try to do it this weekend. It's going to happen this weekend, hopefully before then. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to put something together that's thoughtful, and I can actually show my sincerity for how humbled I am that everybody helped. For everyone that asked if I reached my goal, I did not. I'm pretty far in the hole. And on that note, for everyone that says, why don't you get a real job? I have been, man. I've been trying. I have been picky. I haven't been walking down to any local restaurants and applying. Well, I have actually tried a few that I could potentially work at, but being in the restaurant industry for so long, I'm burnt out of restaurants, so I'm very picky. I really shouldn't be, but I am. When you spend 20 years in the restaurant industry, you'll understand that you're not just going to go work for any restaurant. You want to make sure the right people are there, it's in the right environment, and you'll be appreciated for what you can bring to the restaurant. On that note, I've had multiple interviews. I'm waiting on 2 different jobs right now to let me know, which I should know today or tomorrow. They told me by the end of the week. Both of them did. So that's what we're hoping. So for everyone that left those kind of comments, there's your response. All right. Let's get into this video. Now, this is a pretty serious video. It's a child trafficking case where maybe trafficking is not the right word. Trafficking is definitely not the right word. It is a case where an undercover organization run by the Reno Police Department and caught 14 different people. The news outlets were called trafficking. That's right. I was reading headlines because I was doing research on this. I was trying to find out other information. I want to find as much information as I can to actually put together like a real story about each individual person in this. So if you guys want to see something like that, let me know in the comments, because that's what I'm trying to do, but it's not public yet. Or at least I'm not looking in the right place, maybe. I don't know. All right. So 14 people caught in Reno for trying to lure and exploit minors on the internet is what we're about to see. These are only the court videos, and then I have got a bonus clip. One of the guys had a warrant out for his arrest, and I've got his bonus clip at the end of this. I'm going to not pause it that much because, yeah, there's a lot going on here. Before I get into it, you know what to do. Like and subscribe to your jump kick backflips. If you'd like to donate, the donation link is my link tree in the description. It has all my pay apps in it. All right, let's go.
Remember, and for the edification of the defense attorneys here today, I did mention yesterday that these sting operations, I'm going to utilize my discretion. I may be all over the board depending on the various independent and significant individualized characteristics in each case. Some cases I may go with a no 10% cash option and use my discretion, and other cases I may go with it, even though there is no actual realistic victim in these sting operation cases. With that, go ahead for bail on Mr. Burdett, Mr. Zakari.
Understood, Your Honor. And I guess similarly, the state will be requesting specifically the no 10% cash option on every one of these sting operations. On this particular case, Mr. Burdett, state is requesting the $75,000, again, no 10% cash option with supervision, house arrest, GPS prior to his release, and no contact with any minors under the age of 18. In this particular case, it is one of those sting operations. D had agreed to meet up with both a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old at the Grand Sierra Resort for the purpose of having sexual intercourse. D acknowledges the ages of both of these victims and Facebook messages. He is apprehended at that GSR room as well as with a bottle of tequila. He scores a 7 on the NPRA, which puts him at a moderate risk, and he does get one of those points for having prior failure to appears. It seems he has 2 separate failure to pay, failure to comply holds, and 2 different Reno Municipal Court cases. I believe these are both traffic-related offenses. One is a proof of insurance from 2022. The other is another proof of insurance from 2021. Both were failure to appears for hearings or arraignments in that case. He also has another failure to appear in 2022, misdemeanor arrest. 2021, there was a other proof of insurance. Sorry, I didn't fail to mention another proof of insurance case at Reno Municipal Court. He for bench trial in 2020. 2021, actually all ended on another, so it just seems another proof of insurance violation, this one in 2020, and it also has an included registration case. He did admit to failure to appear with that case in Reno Municipal Court. So I know the other cases are just traffic violations, but he did fail to appear in most of them. I see at least 4 different failure to appear cases for insurance proof of registration cases. That with the egregious allegations here of 2 different underage victims with bringing that ball of tequila at the GSR. I think the defendant has shown he is a risk to the community as well as a risk of flight, and simply that $75,000 would be appropriate.
Thank you. Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. The maximum amount that Mr. Burdett could possibly pay in cash bail is $500. He is established in this community. He's been in his current address for 3 years and has maintained employment as a mobile mechanic. We were able to reach out to his contact and verify some of his information, his residence, his phone number, which would bring his NPRA score down to a 4. His room did indicate that he can obviously return to their residence. So we're asking for bail to be set in the amount of $500 with the house arrest, GPS, no contact conditions that were requested. And we'll submit.
Well, I would imagine the the GSR room was costing him $500 or more, unless he was a big gambler and was getting it somehow comped. Either way, I'm concerned that he can only afford $500, but I will take his individualized characteristics. I'm not going to be able to get him out at $500 rate, though. It's not going to happen. I will also recognize that his NPRA score could come down from the 7 to a possible 4, so he's somewhere in the range of 4. And taking all the totality of circumstances into account, most, if not all, of these sting operation cases, I do find that the defendant is a danger to the community, and I do hereby find this clear and convincing evidence of same with Burdett. I am going to establish a moderate to high bail amount, but it is not going to come with the without the 10% option. It will have the 10% option. Because of the low NPRA case and not an extreme criminal history, I'm going to allow a $50,000 bail, bondable or 10% cash. So that's $5,000 cash, 10 times more than what he says he can afford. So I don't know if he'll be able to get out or not, but that's the best I can make it as accommodating to his individualized circumstances. That's the least restrictive means, an alternative I'm willing to consider to keep him from being a flight risk or a danger to the community. I am extremely concerned with the facts alleged in this case, as I read in the PC sheet, a 14 and 15-year-old coming to the GSR, bottle of tequila, and everything else that I've considered. So it is going to be a $50,000 bondable or 10% cash with conditions of no contact. Why did I have that? There are no actual victims here, Mr. Zakari, so why are we requesting?
Under no contact with minors under the age of 18.
Oh, that's right, that's right. And then I will grant, no unsupervised contact with anybody under the age of 18. In other words, without an adult present. So if you're in a store and the clerk is under 18 or something, that's not gonna be a violation. But it must be with an adult present or supervised contact. Otherwise, no contact with anybody under the age of 18. He is going to have check-ins with DS at least weekly, and before his release, a GPS monitor. I'm not going to go with house arrest in this either, but it is going to come with a GPS monitor being installed prior and warned by the defendant prior to being released. Any other conditions, Mr. Zakari?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, anything else from the defense?
No, Your Honor, thanks.
All right, we'll move on to the next case.
The next case will be Larry Otis Dotson Jr.
Mr. Dodson, I've determined this probable cause to warrant your arrest and detention.
All right. While they're in between cases, they do kind of fast track all these. There's 14 people. I actually don't know. I didn't count. The news clipping said there was 14 arrested. I don't know if they actually arraigned all 14 people today. I didn't count. Now I'm repeating myself. But we'll see. But they go through them pretty fast. That guy, though, 2 minors and a bottle of tequila. I'm sorry. Like there's way more than probable cause to think that he was intending on committing an act. But let me know what you guys think about these type of stings. Now, there are a lot of channels out there that actually do this. Just public, not maybe public's not the right word, just personal channels where people are putting together teams on their own without law enforcement. I used to watch one. I kind of fell into a internet hole watching To Catch a Predator reruns and watching people's opinions on them and just watching them. And I found them interesting and entertaining, unfortunately. So that got me into thinking that there are actual channels that do this, and there are, but they don't have the support of law enforcement. They're only running on the support of the community of doing this. So there's 2 sides to this. So what do you guys think? If it's a even if it's law enforcement doing it, setting up these stings, is this good or is this bad? Law enforcement's one, and then the personal YouTube channels. I can give you a dozen names, not a dozen, probably 3 or 4 off the top of my head that actually do this on YouTube. The same way the law enforcement would. And doesn't like them because they can't really protect them. Who knows what's going to happen when they show up? The one I was watching started wearing a bulletproof vest because he was that afraid when he showed up to meet these guys what they would do. And I don't blame him, but I also wouldn't put myself in that situation. I'm not going to give you my opinion on whether or not I like it or not. I mean, this is bad. We all agree on that. And I'm glad these guys are getting caught. But at what point do they cross a line? So I'm really interested to see how far these cases go. Because I don't know what happens. Because there's not a victim. So how far can you prosecute when there's not a victim? That's my question. I think these guys are all sick. And they should be punished for what they were trying to do. But as a judicial system, how far can they legally go without a victim? All right, let's go.
Of assigned folks to represent you. You score an 8 on the NPRA. We'll start a bail request with Mr. Zakari.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is similar heat sting operation. Heat posted an online prostitution advertisement. Victim confirms to the defendant that she is 16 years of age, and they arranged to have sex at the GSR. D was arrested at that hotel room. He scores an 8 on the NPRA. State does have some concern about, he lists his occupation as a coach. I don't have any further information as what that really entails. My initial thought was coaching of juveniles or children under the age of 18, but I don't have any further information on that. He does have a 2019 suspended sentence for a driver's license, registration, and ultimately an admit to failure to appear at a Reno Municipal Court. 2018 misdemeanor conviction for provoking assault. that was put down from the lead charge of domestic battery, and a 2010 misdemeanor conviction for driving under the influence. So with this allegation, as well as that MPRA score, with at least one recent failure to appear in 2019, state believes that $75,000, no 10% cash option, supervision, GPS house arrest, and no contact with minors under the age of 18 would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for the defense.
Your Honor, I apologize. I did not hear the amount ultimately requested by the state.
75. Same as last case, exactly. 75.
Well, Your Honor, $75,000 is in excess of what Mr. Dotson would be able to pay. I was able to confirm through my investigator some of his information. They spoke with his mother. She was able to confirm his phone number, his residence, and his job, which would bring his NPRA score down to a 4, which I believe may put that in the low range or the low moderate at the very least. To clarify, one of the state's concerns, I believe that coach is just an internal job title. My client clarifies for me that he works as a manager at Walmart. So that concern appears to be addressed. He has maintained employment for the last several years. He's been in the area his entire life at his current address for 3 years, so he has extensive ties to this community. His mother indicated that he is more than welcome to live at her house. So we are requesting bail in the amount of $10,000 with the 10% cash option, as well as GPS no contact order, as in the previous cases.
Thank you. I'm right in the middle, counsel. I'm going to be splitting the difference here, it looks like. My impression is about a $40,000 bondable or 10% cash is what I'm going to assess based on his MPRA, whether it be a 4 or an 8. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It could be as low as a 4. I also find that he is a danger to the community. As I stated earlier, all these cases, I believe there was clear and convincing evidence based upon the facts that are alleged that are similar in nature in every one of these cases that mandate the arrest, make him clear and present danger, in my opinion, to the community in general. Moderate to high bail amount is warranted. His detention is warranted. I can't go with the least restrictive alternative of as low as $10,000. But I also don't believe it needs to be $75,000 with no 10% cash option. So it will be $40,000 bondable or 10% cash. So that means a $4,000 cash bail would provide for his release on the conditions that he check in with DS at least weekly. I don't know what that coach title means, but I am a little concerned with it, but I'm not going to put him on residential confinement. I will simply do the same as the last case where he's to check in with DS at least weekly. He's to have no contact with anybody under the age of 18 unless it is supervised or with the presence of another adult. And there was one other condition, Mr. Zakari?
Did we order the no contact with any minors?
Oh, the GPS. Yeah, no, the GPS. There was no contact with victims and also have a GPS monitor in place and installed upon his ankle or on his person, not a V-check, and done and installed before his release. Those will be the conditions. Anything else, Mr. Zakari?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll move on to the next case.
The next case will be Michael.
All right. I'm going to stop pausing in between every case, but I did want to say the NPRA tool that they used, that kind of grading scale for the defendants that you keep hearing, it's a risk assessment tool. It grades them based on their prior criminal history. There's a lot of things that go into it. There's, if you have a place to stay that you've lived at for more than 6 months, if you have a job, if you have any prior failure to appears, any prior history, and it gives you points based on that. The lower the score on that, the better. I believe it goes from 1 to 15. It might go higher than that, but I think the highest I've heard is a 15, maybe a 16. I don't know. But that's what you keep hearing, their NPRA scores. So when they come up with a low NPRA score, the public defender is going to use that to try to get as low of a bond as possible when it's low. Generally, if you're under a 4, you're going to get a PR bond. Just to walk you through that. And to clarify something that I said a minute ago that's been in my head, I think all these guys should be punished. Don't get me wrong. They all committed a crime. They all should be punished. This is sick. I don't want to try to sound like I was justifying anything. All I'm saying is I don't know, just in my head and what I've figured out in the law tubes, and I'm not a lawyer, there's no victim. So I don't know how far they go, and I feel like all these guys plea out at the end just because there's not a victim. There's no one to testify against them. You have officers that lied to them and said that they were underage when they weren't. So that's the question that I'm asking. So I just want to clarify that. I'm going to let the next couple play for a little bit.
Farrier,
Mr. Ferrier scored a 5 on the NPRA. Similar factual circumstances that determine the probable cause exists to warrant his arrest and detention, and the public defender has been appointed. Go ahead, Mr. Zakari.
Your Honor, state's asking for the same amount of bail, $75,000, no 10% cash option, GPS house arrest, no contact with minors under the age of 18. The one thing I just want to highlight on this particular case is, while similar to other cases, and it seems in each one of these cases, the undercover officer confirms with the defendant the age of the alleged victim. In this particular case, it happens multiple times throughout the text messages between the defendant and the victim, confirming that victim's age of 16. They arranged to have sex at the GSR. He was arrested with money as well as some condoms at the GSR. He ultimately admits to law enforcement to being there to have sex with that 16-year-old. Your Honor already indicated he scores a 5 on the NPRA, but he does seem to reside in California. He has some felony convictions. It is in the past. I see a 1990 felony conviction for burglary. I see 2 counts of that. And I see a misdemeanor conviction for burglary in 87 out of California and a 1996 misdemeanor conviction for driving under the influence out of California. So without a lot of ties to our community, with those prior history, and again, just to highlight in this particular case, it is very well known what the defendant was doing and the age of that victim. State does have concerns for community safety and ongoing criminal activity. State asks for that $75,000.
Thank you, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, once again, $75,000 is far in excess of what Mr. Ferrier could pay. To clarify some of the concerns that have been expressed, we were able to make contact with his wife, who is able to verify his address and his employment, which I believe would bring his NPRA score down to a. He does, despite being technically a California resident, have extensive ties to this community. He lives in Tahoe City, and he's been at that address for the last 13 years. So he could certainly be compliant with local supervision here. His wife has also indicated that he has access to their camper. So if he needed to reside in Nevada, that is something that he certainly could do. So we're requesting bail be set at $10,000 with the 10% cash option in light of some of these changes and what we've been able to verify. With the no contact condition, the GPS monitoring, and any other supervision conditions that the court would find appropriate.
Thank you. I'm close to that, but I'm not quite there, but I'm somewhere between the 2 requests from the state and the defense in this case. Mr. Ferrier scored lower on the NPRA, maybe as low as 3. He was cooperative with the police. I still find him to be a danger to the community. There's clear and convincing evidence of same in most, if not all, of these cases, but individually, looking at his characteristics, I still find him to be a danger to the community. I find that a smaller but maybe moderate bail amount, if looked at that way, in the amount of $30,000 is warranted. It will come with bondable or 10% cash. So as little as $3,000 cash, that is extremely reasonable. Based upon the facts and circumstances of this case, I think that is the non-excessive, reasonable, least restrictive means the court can consider to make sure he makes his court appearances and is not a danger, further danger to the community in this case, or in these cases, in this regard. I also wanted to state that bail, as we all know, is not punishment. Bail is simply designed to make sure he's safe in the community and not a flight risk. And I think that amount will do that. $30,000 bondable or 10% cash with conditions of checking with DS at least weekly. The GPS monitor must be in place prior to his release and worn upon his ankle or upon his person. And also that he have no contact with individuals under the age of 18 unless supervised by another adult or in the presence of another adult. That will be the conditions and the order. Anything else, Mr. Zakari?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next case.
Next case will be Israel Oconatrillo.
And for this defendant, to determine this probable cause to warrant his arrest and detention, assigned a public defender to represent him, and he scored a 10 on the NPRA. You may proceed, Mr. Zakari.
State's requesting bail in the amount of $75,000, 10% cash option, house arrest GPS, no contact with minors under the age of 18. This is undercover Facebook profile posing as a 14-year-old girl. Again, the defendant and the victim acknowledge the 14 years of age of the victim. Talks about having sexual intercourse, massages. The defendant asked for the victim to send a picture of her from the hotel room bed. The defendant shows up at the GSR and was ultimately arrested at the Starbucks on the ground floor. He does seem to be uncooperative with law enforcement with that arrest. PC sheet indicates the defendant tensing up, ultimately has to be taken to the ground. As Your Honor indicated, he scores a high risk on the NPRA at 10. His criminal history earlier this year, a misdemeanor conviction for driving under the influence, 2022 misdemeanor conviction for drug paraphernalia, 2019 felony conviction for possession of a controlled substance for sales, 2017 felony conviction for burglary, 2011 misdemeanor conviction for driving under the influence. So with that high risk on the NPRA, the 14 years of age of this alleged victim, as well as some other egregious facts asking for photos from that 14-year-old, as well as that felony criminal history, state believes the defendant has shown he is a risk to the community as well as a risk of ongoing criminal activity. State believes that $75,000 would be appropriate.
Thank you. For the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, $75,000 is far in excess of what my client is able to pay. He can afford no more than an OR release on this matter. My investigator was able to speak with his sister and verify some of his information, bringing his NPRA score down to a 6. He is from the area. He's local. He has extensive ties here. And he's maintained some part-time employment. So we are requesting an OR because that is what my client could reasonably afford with some of the same conditions that we've asked for on similar cases this morning. No contact order with minors, GPS, check-ins and supervision, but $75,000 is far in excess of his ability to pay.
I can't do an OR, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that his NPRA may be as low as 6. One of these times when it's important enough to me, I am going to demand the proof, and we're going to go through exactly what the employment and what the phone number is, things like that. However, so far, I'm agreeing with you just from your recommendations of what your investigators tells you from your client, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. So I can lower it down to as low as possibly a 6. Either way, he's between a moderate and up to a high category, but I'll look at it as moderate as a 6. There's clear and convincing evidence that he's a danger to the community. I am extremely concerned with an age as low as 14. That makes him even more dangerous in the community than some of these cases where they're talking about a 16 and or 17-year-old child as a fictitious person that the detective is imitating. 14 is a little more dangerous to the community and quite a bit more, in my opinion, as to the age and the youngsters involved that aren't even old enough to understand sex or protect themselves from somebody allegedly doing this type of conduct. So I do find that he's a danger to the community, and I do find that at least a moderate amount of bail is necessary as the least restrictive means to keep him from being unsafe in the community by committing these types of crimes, and or make sure he makes his court appearances. Because of the 14-year-old and the at least 6 on the NPRA, I'm going to make this one a $50,000 bail, similar to Mr. Burdett, I believe. Some of these are comparable. It will be a $50,000 bail, bondable or 10% cash. I'm not going to agree with the state on having it a non 10% cash option. So bondable or 10% cash, which would make it $5,000 cash. Same terms and conditions. Check-ins with DS at least weekly. GPS monitor to be installed prior to release. And having no contact with minors under the age of 18, unless with supervision or an adult person present. Anything else, Mr. Zakari?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
That'll be the order. Thank you.
Next case will be Carlos Angel Ramirez Mesa.
Mr. Ramirez Mesa, there's been probable cause determined to warrant your arrest and detention. Public defender has been assigned to represent you. Scored a 5 on the NPRA. Go ahead for bail, Mr. Zakari.
United States requesting the same amount of bail, $75,000, no 10% option, supervision, house arrest, GPS, no contact with minors. This is another undercover officer posing as a 14-year-old female. Again, victim confirms the defendant at 14 years of age. This one has some other egregious allegations with it. The defendant tries to get the home address of the victim to have sex with her. The defendant asks for the victim's multiple nude photos. They do arrange to have sex at the GSR and to meet at that Starbucks again on the ground floor where he was ultimately arrested. The defendant does make a spontaneous statement to law enforcement that he was just trying to have oral sex with that 14-year-old. So NPRA is a 5. He declined to provide employer information to pretrial services. He does have some criminal history, 2022 misdemeanor conviction for reckless driving, down from an original arrest of driving under influence. He has a 2022 misdemeanor arrest for contempt of court, and then another 2021 misdemeanor conviction for reckless, again, down from a DUI. So with the facts and circumstances of this case, a 14-year-old girl trying to get nude photos and ultimately admitting to law enforcement, just trying to have oral sex, state police, the defendant, it has shown he is a risk to the community or the risk of ongoing criminal activity. State police, $75,000 is appropriate.
Your defense.
Your Honor, we're asking that this court set bail in the amount of $12,000. $75,000 is, again, far in excess of his ability to pay. I was able to have my investigator verify his employment. He works at Brightview Landscaping, and he is welcome to live with his parents should he post or be released. He is from the area or from Northern Nevada. He grew up here. He has extensive ties to the community and is starting a family here shortly. So based on his relative ability to pay, we are requesting that bail amount with the supervision conditions that the court has found appropriate.
Thank you. I'm close to that request here on this case because the NPRA is low. There's no egregious characteristics here. So based on the totality of circumstances and the individual characteristics of this defendant, I'll go as low as 20,000. So I do find that there's clear and convincing evidence he's a danger to the community, of course, on these types of offenses. 14-year-old age amount in this case concerns me greatly, but it's offset somewhat by his low NPRA. So he is a danger to the community. I do think a small to moderate bail amount is required in this case to assure his appearance in court and assure his safety in the community. I'm going to establish that at $20,000 bondable or 10% cash. So that's close to what he's recommending that he can make of $12,000, just a little higher, with conditions that he be checking in with DS at least weekly, that a GPS monitor must be in place prior to his release, and they have no contact with minors under the age of 18 without adult supervision or somebody present being over the age of. Anything else, Mr. Zakari,
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that'll be the order. Thank you. Next case.
Last case will be Brandon James Whitlock.
Mr. Wicklock, I've determined there's probable cause for your arrest and detention and assigned a public defender to represent you. Mr. Zakari, we'll start bail request with you.
Your Honor, state's requesting bail in the amount of $50,000, no 10% cash option, house arrest GPS, no contact with minors under the age of 18. This is a sting operation posing as a 15-year-old girl. The defendant and the victim agreed to meet up at the GSR room. It seems that the initial intentions were to play or kiss or rub or suck on the feet of that 15-year-old victim. Again, the victim confirms with the defendant her age of being 15. He was arrested at the hotel room. Search into the arrest found some lotion, baby oil, and some nail polish. The 2 on the NPRA, he does have a misdemeanor conviction for domestic battery out of 2012. The state is taking in consideration that low NPRA score of a 2. That's why the state's only requested $50,000. Nevertheless, again, with the confirmation that 15-year-old with the agreement to meet at that hotel room, state believes the defendant has shown he is a risk to the community or a risk of ongoing criminal activity and would ask for that $50,000.
Thank you, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are requesting that bail be set no higher than $10,000 with a 10% option. The facts of this.
I'll grant that. I'll grant that.
Thank you.
With a 2 on the NPRA, I'll go ahead and grant that. Anything else?
Not for me, Your Honor.
All right. Yeah, I think that's within reason. I do find that there's clear and convincing evidence Mr. Whitlock is a danger to the community. Soliciting to have sex with a 15-year-old child is extreme danger to the community. I think that's why all of the state's requests almost uniformly have been so high and without the cash option. I don't quite see it the same. I look at the low NPRA as being extremely important to me in determining the bail amount, together with all other totality of circumstances of the individualized characteristics of the defendant. And in this case, the $10,000 bail amount is well within reason as being the least restrictive alternative for someone who scores a 2 on the NPRA. Did I get that right? A 2? Everybody have that same number, right?
Yes, Your Honor. 2 points just for age at first arrest. He had 1 case.
That's the lowest out of all of these that we've had. So obviously my bail amount's going to be low. But I can't go with an OR. I'm not quite there. And defense is asking for a $10,000 bail, which is reasonable. So I'll go ahead and grant that. And $10,000 bail, bondable or 10% cash if posted. And that's as little as $1,000 cash. And I recognize that. But I still think with that low of an NPRA, that's enough to establish his showing up for court as directed, and that he is safe in the community and will abide by the law while this criminal process and prosecution proceeds. And so the conditions will be contact with DS at least weekly, checking in with them, having no contact with any minors under the age of 18 without adult supervision or someone older than 21. And GPS monitor. I'm going to withdraw the GPS monitor on this particular case, so there will be no GPS monitor required. Just check-ins with DS and no contact with minors. That's sufficient for me. Do you understand these conditions, Mr. Whitlock?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see you at your next court appearance, and that will be, Ms. Clerk.
72-hour hearing, November 13th.
Yeah, November 13th at 9:30. Whether you make the bail or not, that'll be your next court appearance. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Any other cases today, Deputy?
No, Your Honor, that was everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others, Ms. Clerk?
That's it, Judge.
Mr. Zakari?
All that I had.
All right, and for the defendants, for the defense? Any
Nothing,
others?
Your Honor. Nope.
All right, thank you. That was a large counter, I think the largest one I've had on the weekend. Thank you for the assistance, counsel, in getting through it.
All right. All right, I've got a lot to say. Oh, as I'm kicking my mic. That wasn't 14 people. All 14 people weren't arraigned on that day. I believe that happened on a Saturday. It wasn't this past Saturday. It was last Saturday. I think. I got to go back and look at the date to see. But that's Reno Justice Court. Reno Justice Court only airs on weekends. Every once in a while, they'll get a random docket during the week, but generally RJC only does weekends. So I'm guessing the other half of the people were arraigned on Monday, probably. I'm not sure. But let me know in the comments. Do you want me to follow up on this? My plan is I want to get police reports, records, and actually go through all these guys and find out exactly what they did instead of just the charges. I've seen a couple channels that have done it. I used to follow a guy named Dave's Lemonade. He does a great job. I don't know him personally. I've never talked to him, but he has a great channel where he gets he has gotten the actual text conversations of everyone from To Catch a Predator, and he would read through them, and he has some kind of psychology background where he would say exactly, this is what this guy's suffering from, this is what's going on here, this is this level of manipulation. He had a lot of definitions. He did a lot of research on it. So I want to know, do you want that kind of thing for this case, or should I just let it go? It's a very serious case, but I'm asking, if I get enough comments to say you want more information on these guys and their cases, and you want me to try my best to follow through with them, I don't know if I'm going to find any more court cases on them, but I can try. I can do my best. I can research the dockets around there and figure out when they're on and request anything I can request publicly. I can do that. But let me know. Let me know what you think. This last one is just a follow up. It's not a follow up, but the very first guy that I talked about that tried to lure the two minors with a bottle of tequila. He had another warrant out for his arrest, and he turned up in Reno Municipal Court a couple of days later. So this last one is his clip. But I'm going to peace out. I'm not going to pause it again. I'm just going to let the video play out. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Do your jump kick backflips. If you would like to donate, I would very much appreciate it. My link tree is in the description. Until next time, bye.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Your Honor.
Sir, were you in the courtroom when the video containing your rights was played?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand those rights as well as the maximum possible penalty associated with misdemeanors and contempts of court?
Yes.
Did you have sufficient time to speak with your lawyer?
I got some time, yes.
If you need more time, you let me know while I take you through your cases. First, we're going to be on record in 20 CR 05837. And in this case, a warrant did issue. You were granted an extension to complete 72 hours of community service that were due on or before May 29th of this year. However, as of the issuance of this warrant, proof of that community service was not provided. Do you wish to admit or deny failing to provide proof of that 72 hours of community service?
I had some of the hours completed, Your Honor.
Okay, did you show proof of the completion of the 72 hours on or before May 29th of this year? That's the allegation.
Okay. I didn't have the 72 hours completed. I was demonstrating that I was going to community service. I needed more time. I was trying to put an extension in, and I got caught up with work, and then I got into a motorcycle accident.
Great. And so all I'm asking is, do you wish to admit or deny failing to show proof on or before 5/29 of the 72 hours of community service?
Did you show proof of your community service?
I'm not sure on that case, so I would say probably not.
What does
I was-
probably not mean? Do you wish to admit or deny failing to show proof of community service by May 29th of this year, of the 72 hours?
Yeah, I admit I didn't
Great.
have that.
I'll accept your admission. I'll find you in contempt for not showing proof of the 72 hours. And then the other case you have is 21 TR 15365. And in this case, you also were required to perform 72 hours of community service and provide that proof of completion on or before July 8th of this year. Do you wish to admit or deny failing to provide proof of that community service by July 8th?
Again, I didn't have the 72 hours completed, but I
Sir,
did have.
I'm not asking if you had a complaint. I'm asking if you did show proof on or before July 8th.
Yes, I was showing proof
Did you show proof of the 72 hours of community service on or before July 8th?
that I had 72 hours completed.
Yes.
I did not have the 72 hours completed.
Okay. Do you wish to admit then that you didn't show proof of 72 hours completed on or before July 8th?
Yes.
I'll accept your admission. I'll find you in contempt on that. Ms. Burning.
Your Honor, I would be asking, my client had done 21 and a half hours on one case. What really stopped him from doing this was he was in a motorcycle accident, which did two things. One is it injured him, and the other thing it did was it took away his transportation to be able to do the community service. So I would be asking for an extension on his behalf with these circumstances for him to do the community service and for the court to take no further action other than to extend that time for him.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Burning. Mr. Burdett, anything you'd like to say with regard to how I handle these two matters? You're not required to say anything, but you're welcome to, sir.
I would be more than happy to complete the community service hours. I just needed some more time.
All right.
I had
Happy to supply you with the time. Look, I want these hours complete. That's why I assigned them, and that's what I want to do. So I'm not playing it. I don't play games. I don't hide the ball. I'm very transparent with what I do. You're going to complete these 72 hours of community service on each of these cases. It's a lot of community service, but you owe that community service. You're going to have to show completion of that community service. Are you going to be able to complete that community service if I let you out of custody and have you do it?
Yes, sir.
Are you working right now?
Judge,
Oh,
just so you know, it looks like
please.
he was arrested on some felony, was picked up on his warrants.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Do you want me to convert this into jail time? I'm asking. I'm happy to do that. That's going to save you having to do these community service hours.
How much jail time would that convert to?
Let's see here. 5 days on each charge, 10 days all in.
Okay. Is it possible to use the time that I've already served here?
When were you arrested?
Thursday?
Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Your
Your
Honor.
Honor, he was arrested on the 3rd.
November 3rd. Thank you. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. All right. So you have 4 days in. Do you want to convert these to community or to jail time?
Yes, sir.
All right. I mean, that way you're not coming out of jail on your felony with community service hours hanging out on your shoulders, right?
Yes, sir.
20 CR 05837, 5 days, Washoe County Jail, credit time served. 21 TR 15365, 5 days, Washoe County Jail, credit time served. Because these are two separate cases and those community service hours were required in both of those cases, those are going to run consecutive because that's the way the warrants were designed. So you're going to have 10 days all in, but you will be given credit since the arrest of November 3rd. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Jennifer Colopy.